Welcome to my channel everyone. Bitcoin is currently trading at 115,400 US dollar. In this video we are going to talk about Ethereum, XRP, Solana and for sure Bitcoin. Things remain exciting, so make sure to watch until the end. So Bitcoin did a move which I personally didn't expect. So this might have happened because I saw a report from JP Morgan, which also went viral on Instagram and X. So JP Morgan said that if the Fed is going to cut rates by 0.25%, then it's going to be bearish. When the Fed actually cut the rate by 0.25%, it was bearish for a few minutes. So basically you have seen so many short positions getting in. We have also seen within the speech of Jerome Powell that the market still went down. But once he finished, the market went up. And this was probably the liquidation of all those short positions. Do I still think that we are bearish? Yes. Did I also take short positions once we were in that area right here? For all of the altcoins? Yes. Did I took profit? Yes. 5 minutes ago. Because I would even say let's clean up the chart a little bit. So we had in the past a falling wedge which broke to the upside. Target here was the first one, 116,730 US dollar. The second target, yeah, it's still ongoing, 120,000. But I'm going to take out both because the 120,000 US dollar is also a fair value gap, which can also get hit once we break the $117,820 to the upside anyway, but we will get to that. So we also had on the chart an inverted head and shoulders formatation, which also broke to the upside. Target here was the 116,740 US dollar. We also went into that target. Then we have said once we get into the area 117,800 US dollar, we should be careful of a huge sell-off. And I still think that this is going to happen. With the push which we got yesterday, we got a high over this one, so I can take this one out of the chart. This rising wedge didn't work. We also had here a rectangle. I don't like to have this kind of support anymore or resistance, so I can also take this one out of the chart. The 114,390 US dollar is still very interesting. Once we lose this price mark to the downside, then I still think that we should sell off into 110,236 US dollar because there is the next good support. We can also say 112,440 US dollar is a fair value gap. So basically, first of all, filling this, then maybe see a bounce, and afterwards see the 110,236 US dollar. So basically, we can look into the past on the 4-hour time frame. We still have our rising wedge in orange on the chart, which broke to the downside and got its retest. We didn't invalidate this pattern. So basically, the target is still ongoing of that big rising wedge. Target 91,620 US dollar. In my opinion, once we break the yellow trend line to the downside, we should get into the bear market. And I would even say Bitcoin can go to 40K. Because if we look into the bigger time frame, we even have to go into the daily time frame. You might not see it because of the price tags. But this movement which we have here, look, one touch point, a second touch point. Then we went up 2 touch points on the upper part. Then a third touch point on the downside. A fourth and a fifth touch point on the upper side. So basically, this whole movement looks like a rising wedge to me, which you can see in yellow. And if we just take the spread of that rising wedge and put it to the breakout point, which would be the 91,370 US dollar, then you would see Bitcoin should sell off with this pattern to 41,500 US dollar. Do I think that this is going to happen? Not now. I still think that selling off like this, for example, into 101,000 or into the maximum 95,000 is still possible. From there, we should see a bounce where we might even invalidate this chart pattern. But we have it on the chart right now, so I have to tell you that. And I would be a bit careful right now. I would be just a bit careful. So the yellow trend line is essential to hold, but we are so far away that I think that seeing 110,160 US dollar and then a new all-time high is far more realistic. And then we would also invalidate this chart pattern. So we have the price mark on the chart, 118,000 right now. If they break to the upside, then we have two beautiful fair value gaps, which are between 119,380 US dollar to 123,150 US dollar for Bitcoin. So two key levels, 114,400 and 118,000. It doesn't matter which breaks to the upside or downside. We have the targets on the chart and we can trade in both directions. If we now look over Ethereum, then you can also see that I have drew here something that we should see with a very high chance the 4,580 US dollar, and then should sell off with a very high chance. But the fair value gap reached even prices up to 4,622 US dollar right here. So basically, with the push which we got here, we wicked a bit more than that, 4,644, but we closed the fair value gap. And now we have a sharp sell-off. Do I still think that we might see a bounce? Yes. Can we also see a bounce which has a bigger retracement? Like this, for example? Also yes. We are not on the one-way street. But you can see that this high right here is higher than the high here. So the right high is a lower high. And if we are just going to fill the next fair value gap, this is also going to be a lower high. And once we break the structure to the downside, then I think 4,256 US dollars is going to get realistic. When are we going to break the structure to the downside? Well, we have here a nice support trend line. Let's say not support trend line, it's actually a support box. So let's make it a box. So basically, the box right here, I will give you the minimum target, 4,411. Once it breaks to the downside, then I think the chance is very high that we should see the 4,256 US dollar for Ethereum. Afterwards, 4,100, 3,980, and to our targets, 3,786 US dollar to 3,500 US dollar. Do I think that afterwards, once we see the area between let's round it up to 3.8k to 3.5k, that we are afterwards going to see a new all-time high for Ethereum? Yes. So the targets which we have measured here between 3.8k to 3.5k, they came from this rising wedge in orange. Instead of taking the maximum spread of that rising wedge and put it to the breakout point, we are usually taking it to the retest point. But once we see a push, a new high, which is not invalidating this pattern. So invalidating this pattern would mean that we are going to break the $4,950 to the upside, so the new all-time high. Then we are actually going to invalidate this target. It didn't happen. So basically the targets are still ongoing in my opinion. The sell-off is also sharp. Did I de-risk? Yes, because we are in a support area. So I can also imagine that Ethereum is going to see a bounce, maybe even 4,590 US dollar to 4,560 US dollar. So basically the fair value gap which we have built here, which is also resistance. and from there sell off. Can we sell off directly without getting into that fair value gap? For sure. Then I have to reconsider increasing my position size once the 4,411 breaks to the downside. So if we now look over XRP. XRP broke a small chart pattern. Okay, let me delete this one. So this small chart pattern which we had, this rising wedge, we have said this is an indication, and this could be our first short trade to increase our position size for a bigger down movement. $2.99 was the price mark which we had to break to the downside sustainable. What means sustainable? Let me just take out here the price mark. So if I make this trend line longer, then you can see a sustainable breakouts means we get some candles lower than the trend line. We retesting it and we get a follow through. If this is not enough for you, then we can also look for another breakout. For example, this one, breakout, retest, sustainable so far. So basically, the bear flag got invalidated by the push which we got over $3.08. Yeah, we didn't even break it to the downside, so I can just take it out of the chart. This chart pattern even didn't get activated. The rising wedge which we had in bright blue, this chart pattern didn't work perfectly. We can still look. Yeah, we still sold off, but not perfectly into the target. So I can take this one out as well. This one is not active anymore. And now we have to see what I actually think is, I can make this trend line a bit longer. So breaking the $2.97 would cause a huge sell-off in my opinion. And the sell-off should be a lot. We can take the length from here, put it to the breakout point. Why that? Because this here can be an head and shoulders formatation. We can also say that we have here a trend line with 1, 2, 3, almost 4, but we count this here as 4 touch points. So once we lose it, it's not going to be positive. Next target, $2.90. Once it also breaks to the downside, $2.72 to $2.74. This was the target before. I can just adjust it a bit. $2.73. And $2.66 is the next support. Once we break it to the downside, it's not going to look good for XRP. So I can also imagine that this, what we got right here, can also develop like an head and shoulders formatation. It also looks like it if we look into the RSI. Then you can also see that we are oversold. That means that we should see over the weekend a cool down in the RSI, which can cause a bounce in the chart. And then if the $2.97 breaks to the downside, then I can increase my position size for a short trade. Like I said, I already took some profits to de-risk because of this kind of movement which we can get. If we now look over Solana, Solana also didn't break the bear flag to the downside. So I can just take it out from the chart. The chart pattern was there. It didn't get activated. We always wait for the breakout to increase our position size. I can also take this rising wedge to the down. Also from the chart, this chart pattern worked. So far, what I would look for is that we are not just going to see a bounce, which gets us into the resistance, and from here sell off while having this double top pattern. So we can look if we can find a trend line which is attractive for us to trade. And it looks like that once the $233 breaks to the downside, then we should see the $225. Once they also break to the downside, then we have to measure where Solana can go. I actually think $195 is very interesting for Solana because there is a support box. We also have a support box at around about $200. But once we sell off, once we break the $233 to the downside, then we are also going to see some new chart patterns which are directing us into new targets. Also, we had on the chart a fair value gap which was between $244 to $255. So with the first push we closed half of it with this push right here. So basically I didn't even expect another push, to be honest, but we had it on the chart that we had a fair value gap. So basically Solana made one less push, and you can already see that the sell-offs which we are getting are sharp. This is not looking bullish in my opinion. So I can take this one out of the chart so far. And let's just look that this chart pattern is going to develop like this. And then we can trade Solana pretty good in my opinion. So you might have seen it today. We don't have many chart patterns. Why that? Because most of them got invalidated. Did I also took the loss from 2 days ago? Yes. Did I reopened short trades when I saw a nice price movement to the upside, which I was thinking that this is far too much and it's not sustainable? Also yes. Did I also de-risk right now because we can see a bounce? Yes. So basically we have seen so many things which are a bit choppy right now. The market is currently volatile. So make sure to be safe, make sure to have some risk management. So with that said, we see each other in the SUI, Avalanche, HBAR and Dogecoin update.